Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of the Road to the State podcast. I'm your host, Reese Kinder, joined by my co-host, James Tippins. Big game last week for Auburn versus Vestavia Hills, and we have a special guest joining us today. It is head coach of the Auburn Tigers, Coach Keith Etheredge. Coach, how you doing?
Doing great, guys. How are y'all?
Doing great. We excited that you guys got the win last week against Vestavia Hills. We're ready to break down that game, but first, let's go into this intro, and let's get this episode started. All right, Coach, starting off with that game last week against the Vestavia Hills Rebels, a big win for you guys, 52-41. Casey Myers, your quarterback, just shining in that win. Just tell us a little bit about how you and the guys handled that situation, being down early 21-0 in the first quarter, and how you and your coaching staff got together.
Just telling our kids don't quit. Just persevere. There's going to be peaks and valleys in games. Just so happened most of the valley was in that first quarter. So our coaches did a great job of making some adjustments, and the guys did a great job of coming back out and actually implementing those adjustments and making plays.
Yeah, I mean, I saw, the 21-0 lead was kind of it felt like a momentum killer. You guys were kind of down, but I feel like you guys were able to get the kids going again, and they were able to get things done. And Casey Myers led that offense back on the field right after going down 21-0. He went and scored, and after that, it's just it seemed like every drive you guys came back out and were able to score some points.
Yeah, we did a good job putting drives together. I think that Casey played great. Ran the ball great, threw the ball great. The receivers did a great job of getting in their spots and getting open and catching the ball. JJ, Huff, all those guys running the ball did a really good job Friday night. And it's always good to go back and get to play somebody that you lost to and then make it right. So it was a great night Friday night, and just super happy for our kids and and super happy for the program.
Yeah, and I mean, especially since it felt like the team just was ready for that game, and we were kind of all shocked by the 21-0 deficit, but you guys were able to come back and do your thing, and I like the run game being explosive in that second half. But run game wise, the whole season it feels like you guys have kind of went away from the run game. Just tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, we've had to adjust a little bit. When you lose All-American, to graduating early, you sort of got to make some adjustments. We moved a wide receiver to running back, so we knew at the start of the season we talked about getting Huff ready and getting JJ ready, and we knew it was going to take a little while. So you got to do some things that you normally don't do. We felt really good with our receivers, with our quarterback. So. We went to more of a throwing offense. Did a lot of passing. Did a lot of our short game was our running game. Basically, is what we said. So we just sort of had to make adjustments. And in high school football, you got to do that. Somebody goes down, it may change your whole game plan. So you got to be able to adjust. And I think that our coaching staff did a great job. Coach Wagner did a great job. Has done a great job this year of throwing the ball a little more, and leading us up to getting to where our running game can contribute and actually be a weapon that we can use.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that was a good run game in that second half. But James, you have any questions here for Coach Etheredge?
Yeah, Coach. Antonio Welch had a huge game last game. He's the veteran leader receiver. Just talk about his leadership on this team.
Tony's a great player. I call him Silky because he's real smooth. He's not super fast, but he's real smooth. Always seems to get open. And we got a dynamic group of receivers because Askew's the speed guy. Yeah. Cash is the possession guy. Levi's a guy that you sort of got everything in one. He's the taller guy. JJ coming out of the backfield, we put him at the slot and stuff. He's the little jitterbug. So every one of them play an integral role in what we're doing, and Tony is one of those guys. He's very consistent. All those guys can catch. They do a great job of running after the catch, and I think that Kaysen's getting comfortable with every single one of those guys. So it makes a really big difference.
Yeah. Switching things to the defensive side of the ball and that leadership, that linebacking room is just one of the deepest ones in the state of Alabama. Greg Williams, Aiden Parker, just talk about that defensive side of the ball and especially linebackers.
Greg and Aiden have been huge this year. I'll tell you one unsung hero that don't get mentioned much is Alex Gamston. You know, those three guys, you know, are huge leaders on that defensive side.
Yeah.
Everything runs through them. Then you have CJ and Colin up front. You have Cam Creighton, Eli Scott, Bowersock, Barber, you know, Brown. You know, there's so many guys up there that do a lot of things for us. We have about an 8-man rotation up front, and that kind of can wear offensive lines down.
Yeah.
You know, and we use all those guys at some point during the game, and this, you know, it becomes a lot on an opposing offense. You know, because they're all different type of players.
Yeah. So. Looking forward to Daphne, what do you see out of the dynamic air raid offense? You know, they get to the ball to their receivers a lot. What are you seeing? From them?
They've got some electric receivers. You know, they got 2 guys that run sub 11 second, you know, hundreds, so they can really fly. You know, so we got to be ready. And I think, you know, we got BJ and Tez out there at the corners. They've had great years this year. You know, we got about 4 guys that we rotate back there at safety. You know, you got Isaac, you got Logan, you got Graham, you got Donaldson. You know, all those guys back there are doing a great job that are rotating in. And we just got to keep the top on it this week. We can't let their speed guys get out there in space. We got to smother them when they get the ball in their hands.
Yeah, and I mean, Coach, just going off what James said, you know, Daphne game tomorrow. You guys have a big, you know, it's a long travel down there to Mobile. You know, how are you and the guys going to just get ready just mentally for this game against Daphne? Yeah,
I think it's just having, you know, just making sure that we're doing all the little things right. We're going to take it just like a regular season game. We're just going to leave a little bit early. That's about it.
I mean, you guys too. You know, it's a big game, second round of playoffs. You have an opportunity here to move on and potentially, you know, the talk has been could be an Auburn Opelika rematch. What does that feel like? You know, knowing that there could be another rivalry game for the third round.
Look, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that fourth round or the semifinal game. We got to win this one.
Yeah.
We win this one, then I'll worry about Opelika Baker. You know, whichever one of them wins. You know, if we get Opelika, it'll be at home. If we get Baker, we got to go on the road again. So it doesn't matter to me. People ask me all the time. They say, "Well, what do you think about the next game? Who do you want to play?" And my thing is the same all the time. I don't care who I play as long as we're still playing.
Yep.
Yeah, just one game
we
at a time.
We just want to take it one game at a time and win the next game. And, you know, I think that when you start looking ahead, you start getting yourself in trouble.
Yeah, certainly. And, you know, going to the quarterback position, I know you guys have had to kind of switch things up this year, but Casey Myers, the true leader, he's just been coming out as a really good quarterback. And just tell us that development over the season, how it's progressed.
Yeah, he's gotten a ton better. And the reason he's gotten better is because he's making great decisions. He's getting in the flow of the offense. He's trusting his receivers more. He's, you know, his timing is getting better. You can see it with the receivers. You watch the games at the first of the year, and you can see that the timing isn't perfect. But you can watch now when guys stick their toe in the ground and they get their head around, that ball's already in the air. It's coming to them. You know, when you start getting that kind of cohesiveness and that kind of, you know, togetherness, it starts meaning a lot more. It starts, you know, producing a lot more results. And I think that's what's happening right now. Casey's thrown for right at 2,300 yards right now, and he's rushed for over 500. So, I mean, he's accounted for almost 3,000 yards of offense, which is unbelievable. You know, and we're only 11 games in. You know, we got a lot more football left. So, you know, hopefully we do what we're supposed to do this week, and you know, he has a big game this week, which I think he's capable of that. You know, and he's going to have to play good for us to win.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he's been playing phenomenal football as of late, especially that last game against Vestavia Hills, and kind of take us through that process to the Vestavia Hills game, just how he was able to get, you know, mentally prepared for down 21-0 and able to get back in that game.
Well, if you think about it, you know, they started bringing some blitzes, and Casey did a really good job of wherever they were coming from. He was going hot to that side. Our receivers did a good job of getting their heads around, And, when people start blitzing, start taking chances, trying to make other plays, it gives you an opportunity to make plays. If you do not make those plays, though, you fall right into their hands. It just so happened after that first quarter, we started making those plays, and it started resulting in points for us. And then defense stepped up. I think after we came out the third quarter, they drove right down, had a really big run, scored. And then after that long run, I think they have 19 yards rushing after that long run. 19 yards rushing the rest of the second half. And so that just shows you our defense really stepped up.
Yeah, Coach, leading up to this week, I know we got the game tomorrow, but how did you prepare this team coming up, traveling a long way? What were y'all focusing on in practice?
Well, just being consistent. Nothing's going to change for us. The travel is a long ways, but we've had long road games. We went 2 hours to Vestavia. We went 2 hours 15 minutes down to Dothan. This is like a 3-hour drive, I think. So we're just going to leave an hour earlier. We're going to stop and grab something to eat at the same time we normally would eat here. So there's not a lot change. Dress room facility, of course, will be a little different. So we're just going. We get there early. We may hang out on the bus and relax, and hop off the bus and get ready to play football. I tell our kids all the time, it's just a game.
Yeah.
I want y'all to have a great time. I want you to have fun. I want you to, but a lot of the fun's in winning. So let's go win.
Go get a win. Yeah.
That's right.
But Coach, your playoff record's just been phenomenal. You got the 200th career win last week against Vestavia Hills. How does that feel to have your 200th career coaching win?
It's great. I've been blessed in 20 years as a head coach to average 10 wins a season, which is, unheard of. And, I think that's a testament to the coaches that I've had coaching with me and to the players that I've had playing for me. I've had great players playing for me. I've coached with great men and just good Christian men that do things the right way. And, I think that's been a staple of our program everywhere I've been as far as coaching. I think that means a lot. And I think that if you show kids you love them, they'll run through a brick wall for you. And I truly believe that. And I think that, I've been blessed with some kids who have, tore down a lot of brick walls. So, and it makes it fun. It's great. Those 200 wins are great, but I'm looking for 201 right now.
trying to get the next one up
That's
there
right.
on the board already.
That's
But,
right.
Coach, just like what, you guys are trying to get to that state championship. You're trying to go to Birmingham. What has been the message to the guys, starting this playoffs, how each game's just going to come one at a time?
Yeah.
What's been the message?
Just etch your name in the history books here. Auburn High School's never won a football state championship. We want to be the first.
Yeah.
So you can't win a state championship unless you win the first playoff game.
Yeah.
You can't win a state championship unless you win the second playoff game. So we're going to take it like that, one game at a time, and we want to make sure that these guys understand that, it is just a game. And I want you to be great men. I want you to learn a lot of things through this game of football. But the thing is, I tell them all the time, if we lose, I get to stop hanging out with y'all. It gives me extra time. We get to be out here on the field another week. We win Friday night, I get another week with these guys. So we talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coach, to end my questions off, I'm going to throw a little fun one in. You know how players always look up to their favorite players.
Yeah.
From a coach's standpoint, who is that person you look up to, or maybe a mentor?
It was definitely my high school football coach, Coach Fairley, Bobby Fairley. I was raised by a single mom. My mom raised 3 boys by herself. My dad died in the military, so she raised us by herself. And my coaches were like my father figures. So Bobby Fairley was a special man to me. He was at the game the other night. It's probably been about 4 or 5 games this year. So my high school football coach is definitely one of those men that I look up to.
Yeah.
My high school basketball coach was at the game, Andrew Brisky. He actually was Dr. Moore's high school basketball coach also.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it was special having them there Friday night.
That's cool.
Yeah, but Coach, to end off the show, just like one last question: what's a moment in this season that's really defined you guys as a team, that's brought you guys together and led to this success?
There's been a lot of adversity this year. You know, it's been a kind of tough year. You know, we've had some parent issues. You know that you're never going to make everybody happy. And I tell kids all the time, nobody loves you like your mama and daddy love you. So they're going to stick up for you. They're going to want you to be out there. They're going to want you and the other best 10 to be out there. But I assure you that we're going to play the best players. And if you're not playing, it's just because maybe you're not better than the guy that's in front of you, or there's some kind of character flaw that you got to fix. And I think that this year has been real tough because there's some good players. We have some good players that don't get to play as much as they may get to play at another place. But everybody has done a great job. All the guys have done a great job of coming together and working together and just helping each other get better and better as the year's gone on. And you've seen guys that were playing a whole lot at the first year that's not playing as much now because other guys have gotten better. And you've seen guys that wasn't playing a whole lot at the first year that's playing a lot now because they have gotten a lot better. Mm-hmm. And the understanding of the game, the understanding of what we need in certain situations, and I think that the closeness of this team is what's brought them this far. I think that they're playing for each other. Mm-hmm. There's not any self. The last 4 or 5 weeks has been very, 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 very relaxing because I've got to watch these guys grow up. Mm-hmm. There's been no selfishness the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's all been about team. It's all been about working together. It's all been about, we're doing this together, yeah. So it's been very, very refreshing, and then, like I said, I've dealt with parents for 20 years, and we've got great parents here. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the biggest supporters of these kids are going to be their parents. And the guys understand that too. Mm. And I think that's where the unselfishness comes from. Our group of young men, they're going out there and they're working hard just to be the best we can be, and to help Auburn win that first state championship.
And certainly, you got to have leadership on the team, and you guys seem like you guys have it around there. But, thanks, Coach, for your time today. Appreciate you joining us, and hopefully you guys get a win tomorrow night against Daphne. We can continue to
let's do it again next week.
But thanks, everyone, for tuning in to Road to the State for this first episode. If you enjoyed this show, make sure to follow on the Spotify and also share this with your friends, and stay locked in each week as we track Auburn's road to maybe another deep postseason push or even a state championship.